On a battlefield drowned in fire and blood, the Gori kingdom was collapsing beyond recovery. Enemy forces pressed in from every direction, leaving no hope of victory. Amid the chaos and fallen soldiers, one man still stood firm, Go-Jinshin, the general who commanded the Black Armor Cavalry. He and his remaining troops fought to the very end. Exhausted and wounded, they refused to retreat, choosing instead to stand together and uphold their honor. Even as defeat became inevitable, not a single soldier turned their back on the battlefield. At the height of the battle, a royal command arrived from the emperor, Jinshin's older brother. It was not an order to continue fighting, but a final, heavy decision. Withdraw to the sea. Board the ships. Along with that command came another responsibility. Jinshin was to escort the emperor's son, the young prince, the last hope of the royal bloodline. That order meant one thing: the war was over. The emperor had chosen to remain behind and fight, so that the future of the kingdom might survive through his child. Jinshin looked across the burning battlefield. He could stay and die alongside his men. But as a general, he understood that survival, protecting what remained, mattered more than a meaningless death. He was not betraying his kingdom. He was obeying it. Without hesitation, he ordered a retreat. The Black Armor Cavalry broke through enemy lines, carving a path toward the coast. The withdrawal was brutal. Soldiers fell one after another, but none fled, and none abandoned their comrades. At last, they reached the shore and boarded the ships. Only a handful survived, among them, the young prince, guarded with absolute care. From the deck, they watched their homeland burn, knowing they would never return. The ships sailed into the open sea. Before long, the sky darkened. Black clouds gathered, and violent winds roared across the water. Towering waves slammed against the ships as a massive storm swallowed them whole. The vessels were pushed to the brink of destruction, caught between life and death. Then, at the center of the storm, a strange light appeared. It was not lightning, but something far more mysterious. The light spread across the sea, engulfing the ships and everything around them. The sound of wind and waves vanished in an instant. When Jinshin opened his eyes again, he stood at the front of the ship, staring ahead with cold, focused eyes. Something about the wind and atmosphere felt wrong, different from the world he knew. It was as if reality itself had shifted. Soon, land appeared in the distance. It was not a familiar coastline. Instead, a vast and dense forest stretched across the shore, dark and untouched, with no sign of civilization. The entire area felt foreign, almost hostile. The ship slowly anchored near the shore. Without hesitation, Jinshin ordered a disciplined landing. The remaining soldiers disembarked in formation, carefully protecting the young prince at the center. Even after everything they had survived, Jinshin did not allow disorder for even a moment. The first step onto the land confirmed it. This was not their world anymore. The air was different. The silence was unnatural. Even the feeling of the ground beneath their feet felt unfamiliar. They moved cautiously into the forest, maintaining military formation. Every soldier stayed alert, knowing danger could appear at any moment. Then, a sound broke the silence. Rustling leaves. Something large was moving through the trees. The soldiers immediately tightened their grip on their weapons. The atmosphere grew tense in an instant. From between the trees, a figure slowly emerged. It was massive. It had a humanoid body, but its skin was green and its face resembled that of a beast, like a pig. Backhand index pointing right, it was an orc. Instead of killing it immediately, the soldiers worked together carefully and managed to capture it alive. This was not an accident, it showed their discipline and control. They brought the captured orc back to the camp. The atmosphere instantly became tense. The creature struggled violently, growling and trying to break free, showing strength far beyond a normal human. The soldiers surrounded it, weapons ready at any moment. Unexpected, something massive appeared in the distance. The ground began to shake. Heavy footsteps echoed through the forest. From between the trees, a huge shadow emerged. It was a bull-type monster, massive in size, with thick muscles and large horns on its head. Every step it took made the earth tremble. Its eyes locked onto the camp. And then, backhand index pointing right, it charged. "Form ranks," the soldiers shouted. The black armor cavalry quickly formed defensive lines, blocking the entrance to the camp. The monster slammed forward with terrifying strength, destroying trees and shaking the ground. The soldiers were pushed back slightly, but they held their formation. Jinshin stood at the front calmly. He did not panic. He only observed. He analyzed the monster's movement, timing, and power. "Backhand index pointing right, do not break formation," he ordered. The bull monster charged again, aiming straight for the center of the camp. But Jinshin moved. In a single precise motion, he stepped into its attack path and struck at a critical point. The impact stopped the monster's movement instantly. Its body trembled. Then it collapsed heavily onto the ground. Silence returned to the camp. This manhwa named the Iron Emperor.